Welcome to the Couple-preneurs Show, helping couples in business develop structure and strategies that nurture the balance between business and home, bringing you interviews and insights to give you the secret sauce of power couples. Here are your hosts, Oscar and Kaya Frazier.
Entrepreneurs, those in business, those thinking about getting into business. If any of these things sound remotely like you, this show is absolutely for you. I'm super excited today to have a great conversation around business ownership and ways to just be inspired to do more, as an owner. But before I do that, let me turn it over to Kaya because she's already making mean faces at me so she can talk about the sponsors.
You don't think that I'm just the worst. Okay, so our sponsors today are Talk Shirt to Me. Have you ever seen someone walking around with like this shirt that's got this cool slogan on it and you're like, man, like I wish I had that shirt? Well, Talk Shirt to Me specializes in slogan shirts. Go out to their website, check them out. I'm pretty sure they have something that is going to catch your eye and that you're going to want to buy. So talkshirttome.com. Oscar, I need to admit something.
What's that?
I ordered about 3 or 4 Talk Shirt to Me shirts just here recently, but we'll get back into that later. No, we'll talk about that later. So our other sponsor we have is Carolina Runners. They are a family-owned trucking company. If you are an owner-operator out there and you're looking for an authority, please give them a holler. Check them out. They are at carolina-runners.com.
You're doing pretty good at that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So Kai, let me tell you why this particular show I'm super excited about.
Okay, let's talk.
So one thing that I think you and I have witnessed here is that how our families are doing all sorts of entrepreneurial journeys, right? Whether it's I think most of our listenership, they understand that a couple, it's been about maybe 6 months now. We just got into the trucking business. My sister was the person who kind of pioneered that, and we followed in her footsteps. And now my mother's also into the logistics and trucking, and we're always doing things, right? But we never really had things like a family mission statement, right? That would help us to be able to kind of separate or have a guiding principle between business and personal decisions, and how we can make sure that we're growing the business, but we're also remaining sane as family members, right? Now, in addition to that, there's also things like, second generation business ownership. Like, what does it mean when your family and stuff is kind of growing and those kind of things there. And so I'm so excited to introduce to all of you someone that I think is absolutely phenomenal. Not to mention, she's also about to be a 3-time TEDx speaker.
Yes.
And those that know me know that I'm super excited about getting on TEDx eventually here. So without further ado, let me introduce to all of you Miss Kristen Donnelly.
Yes.
How's it going today?
It is going so well. How are you doing?
Doing good. And I just before this call, and this is going to be so funny here, guys, because you all know me that my Southern accent pops out every once in a while. I've already butchered the first name, and I just introduced her. So if I can, let me say this once again. It's Kristen.
Yes.
Kristen Donnelly.
It is.
I'm so sorry. Sorry about that.
Oh, gosh, don't worry about it. It is going super well. I've lived all over the world, and people say my name in all different ways. I am never upset by the variety of pronunciation, fear, and
Wait, I think you and Kaya probably have something in common. People call her Kia, Kaye. I've heard everything.
Everything.
Yeah,
everything.
sure.
I answer to it all.
Yeah,
I answer to it all.
It's just easier. Yeah, I get Kirsten and Christine and Christina, and I get it all. So it's just easier.
Yeah. So the power of inclusivity, right? Beauty and difference. 3-time TEDx speaker. I'm just intrigued. If you can, just tell us a little bit more about who you are, what you do, and then I want to get into like this business ownership thing that you got going on. I'm just truly inspired.
Oh, well, gracious. Thank you so much. The short summary is that I am a massive nerd who figured out how to take the things I'm nerdy about and teach other people about them. It's really what it comes down to.
Got it.
I grew up outside of Philadelphia because my family owns a manufacturing company in the Kensington section of Philadelphia. We've been here for 30 years. And our family mission statement is to impact lives and create wealth. And when we say wealth, we mean that it's emotional, it's physical, it's financial, it's spiritual, it's economic, it's community. Everything that we do, both as a family and as a business, is helping the people around us create their definition of wealth and a more full, holistic experience of what it means to be human. Because honestly, being human is really exhausting, and nobody has ever told us how to do it. We're all just figuring it out as we go along.
Yep.
Right.
And so, that's kind of the mission. And so within that mission statement, I went off and I got a couple postgraduate degrees, and including a Ph.D. My Ph.D. is from Queen's University, Belfast in Northern Ireland. And I've spent 25, 30 years, honestly, when I really think back on my life, thinking about how can I, as my own little individual wee little self, help make other people's lives better? How can I do it? And I've had lots of jobs in a way, but they've all come back to that idea of service and teaching, all of them.
Wow.
And so now, as a part of our family business, not only do I co-own the entire network with my younger brother, and he gets asked all the time, what's it like to be, your big sister's boss in a certain way, because he outranks me if somebody needs to. So, but alongside of that, and kind of doing the whole thing, I run with my business partner and best friend, Dr. Erin Hinson. We run a company called Abbey Research, where we are empathy educators, and we spend our days helping people understand that empathy is not about emotions. It's about understanding. It's a mental framework. It's deciding to understand yourself and others better so that we can be humans together in a more cohesive way. And I do that through keynotes and workshops, and we have a YouTube channel and a podcast that we love. And then I also get the privilege of taking TEDx stages to be able to start conversations in different directions. Because that's really what I see a lot of my life is to say, okay, I know that you think this, and that's great, but what if it's wrong? And what if this is true instead? And I just spend my life asking, what if?
I hear you. I'm certainly, I'm certainly a closet nerd as well that Kaya definitely knows about. Yeah. And I'm always intrigued by things like this. But my question to you is, how did you determine that this was something that you wanted to do, right? I mean, I see your postgraduate degrees with a master in social work, master in divinity, and then a PhD, and now you're giving this training, if you will, on empathy. How did you land there?
She takes a deep breath because that answer is super long. The summary is that I just kept trying other things, and when they didn't work out, I kept trying other things. So I spent a lot of time as a youth worker, and then that ended. Then I went to do PhD and thought I was going to be a full-time professor, and I learned that higher ed is incredibly predatory and is not the kind of environment that I want to be in. And I know that I'm not called to be a clinical social worker. That's not my jam, but I wanted to figure out ways to take this incredible social work training that I got, the mindset that I was trained in and given, and figure out other ways. And in conversation with my family, we started talking about okay, well, what if HR could actually be in-house social work? What would that look like? So I moved home. I emigrated home with my husband from Northern Ireland and showed up at first in the family business doing HR from a social work perspective. And then as some things within the family evolved, my father had a very significant health event, actually, that kind of accelerated the hypothetical, my brother and I will take it over someday, into we need a concrete timeline. Got it. No problem. Okay, here we go. And as that happened, it was a lot of okay, truly, how do I show up here in my best gift? And so in the spring of 2016, some things kind of had to shift within the company and the plan moving forward. And so it kind of staying in the HR lane wasn't going to be possible anymore. I needed to be taking a larger leadership position. And as I did that and looked at, again, we think the motto of every family business is, or not the motto, we should say, but one of the backbones is that you figure out the specific gifts that every family member brings to the table. You also figure out what brings them joy. And then you figure out what of those things where they fit the best to the needs of the company and the mission statement.
That's outstanding.
And all of those things have to be in place. Has to be things they're good at, things that make them happy, and things that serve the company.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Versus trying to make someone fit, into something that's already formed. Mm-hmm. It's them kind of being true to themselves and then fitting in where they're needed in order to move the company forward. I love that aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and if it's an existing role, that's beautiful. It wasn't for us. I didn't fit into any of the existing roles we had, because what it comes down to is that what I am gifted at is teaching. Mm-hmm. And we've never sold anything that wasn't a widget before. Like, we make dye, we make glue, we make things. Right. And instead, what I could offer was my brain.
Nice.
And so what we did was create a separate division within the company. And then I hired my best friend to come and work with me. And for the last several years, what we've been doing is figuring out how we can take two, honestly, world-class educations and how to do research and how to teach and how to ask questions and how to listen to people and serve the marketplace, because we didn't want to keep these skill sets in the academy.
Yep.
Because you're not doing any good there.
I totally hear you, and I wish you could see me, because I'm over here like leaned in and like really like listening to this. and here's why. I'm always intrigued by someone's journey, right? Especially in our podcasting experience so far. We haven't been doing podcasting that long per se, but we have been lucky and fortunate enough to talk to all walks of life. We're talking about people that may be startup company where they're like just maybe only have 5 or 6 customers, all the way up to $1 billion portfolios, which we had one earlier today that we were talking to. And so it's like, but everyone has a commonality, right? And it means like there was something that happened that they started to realize that things just weren't clicking for them. Right. And it's like, I tried this, but then I realized that really wasn't my thing. And there was an episode we did a couple weeks ago, and we talked to this one person where I was mentioning, and I think we both agreed that there's like that fork in the road again, right? Where it's like the I guess the worker bee mindset, which is totally fine, may decide to say, well, if this doesn't work, I'm either going to just suck it up and stay there, or I go get another job. And then the entrepreneurial mindset, which is also just another option of a person, may say, well, I don't want to do that, so I'm going to go create my lane, right? And I think that I have so much respect for this, because quite frankly, I haven't heard someone say it in the way that you're saying it when it comes to like, I'm teaching about empathy. I'm an empathy educator. About a week ago, we talked to someone about how he teaches love. His concept is about, and his business is 200 plus employees, $50 million company. I think I may be on the lower end right there. I think he may be higher than that, but nonetheless, he is teaching love.
Love as a business strategy.
Absolutely.
And I'm totally digging it. So how are people receptive to that? When you're talking to business owners or the people that you're training and teaching, what's that initial thought process when they walk into the room and they hear you saying that you're going to teach them about empathy?
Well, here's the secret. We don't actually tell them we're going to do that. And one of the reasons is because everybody still thinks it's about emotion.
Yeah.
And it's not. It's every definition on the planet includes the word understanding. And understanding is entirely mental. And what we are researching and thinking about and talking and doing right now is realizing that when we call people empaths, it's not actually empathy that they're good at. It's sensitivity to other people's energies.
Okay.
It's not anything to do with understanding the emotions of other people, because we actually can't. Because we don't know, we're not like in their brain or in their skin.
Right.
And so we're trying to figure out new ways to have this conversation, because like nothing quite has worked. But what we really do teach, honestly, is how to human better. And so it depends on what your organization is looking for. The most popular workshop that we teach and the keynotes that I do are about inclusivity. And so that falls into the diversity, equity, and inclusion space. And so people think they're hiring us to do DEI work. And then we rock up and we're like, right, so all the ways you've been doing DEI work haven't worked because you're focusing on building diversity, which is not something you can actually do. Diversity exists. You have to excavate the diversity that exists already and build inclusivity. And people are like, I'm sorry, what?
Right. I just said that, but when you think about it, I'm totally digging this. I wish we had a whiteboard session we could do here to just start, digging into this further, because this is definitely something of interest to me. Because and here's why. Right, in our world, outside of the podcasting world and the small business stuff, we are in the global crisis management field, right? And so we've done, I don't know about project, I think 14 across the continent of Africa, and we're in Asia and doing stuff in Europe. And so when we're offering training, and we're teaching journalists how to avoid, chaotic moments and how to minimize, disinformation, I think there could be a level of value when it's talking about inclusivity, right? Because we're so careful about what we say. Are we being careful about how it's received? And again, maybe I'm just thinking about this like way too deep right now, but Kyan knows I'll go down a foxhole in a minute and we'll be on this call for 3 hours.
In your head, like turning. I can see the gears.
Yeah, I'm so
well, like for instance, so as you guys are talking about like global crisis management, which I'm sure means you're super bored right now and have nothing to do. And like one of our big things, so let's take in the United States, let's take the Academy Awards, for instance, in the last couple of years. Okay. There's been this huge push in Hollywood to make the Academy Awards more diverse.
Right.
And it talks a lot. There's the hashtag #OscarsSoWhite, and all of that is happening. Yeah. The issue is that by focusing on explicitly racial equity, which is what that campaign is focusing on, and also by kind of using diversity and racial diversity as interchangeable ideas, we could achieve complete racial parity.
Yeah.
And we still won't have body shape diversity. We still won't have neurotypical diversity. We still won't have necessarily all gender diversity. But we're going to say, the Oscars got really diverse this year because there was a lot of Black candidates. It's like, okay, well, were there also a lot of Indigenous candidates? Right. Were there also enough Asian candidates? So that's a little bit of our entire worldview. It's like, great, you are so correct that white supremacy and the patriarchy and all the other systems that are in place around the world to make sure that the default idea of human turns into, white, middle-class, heterosexual dude.
Yeah.
All of those systems are a problem, but you can't pretend that all of the systems are just about the whiteness and that's it.
That's right. Yeah,
right.
So totally agree.
So then how do we walk in and expand it? So like y'all's work in Africa. So like I've had the privilege of serving in sub-Saharan Africa in particular, and working pretty closely with a lot of nonprofits in Malawi. Mm-hmm. So as we think about Malawi, one of the major issues there is drought. Like their soil just does not retain water. It doesn't, which is why tobacco used to grow there so well. And so we could talk about diversity in Malawi, but unless you're also bringing into that access to water, historical access to water, historical access to like education with how do we talk about irrigation, you're not having a full diversity conversation. Has this kid that you're talking to, did they only ever eat tomatoes because it was the only thing that would grow? Or do they understand a different world outside their village? But if we're just going to talk about are they in Lilongwe, which is the capital, or are they in Blantyre, which is a lot further south, that's not understanding the full Malawian experience, but we pretend that it is.
So it cannot be a one size fits all scenario.
Right.
Yeah.
It can't. It has to be humans. I mean, if we talk about, it's the same thing in conflict zones, which I'm sure you guys see too. If we pretend that the only conversation that is relevant in South Africa is the legacy of apartheid, we're missing a lot of other things.
Oh
exactly.
Gosh, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Tell me about it. I mean, there's a lot of violent extremism things going on that people just don't. Yeah. It's almost like if it's not on CNN or Fox News, people are like, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff happening globally that we are knee deep in, but people just don't. If it's not in front of their face, they don't know.
Right.
And this is a conversation. I know I would love to have you back on just to talk about that inclusivity component.
Yes.
and what that means.
I'd love to.
Several topics.
Yes.
Yeah. We can go.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, we totally can. On our YouTube channel, we have a series called the Colonizers World Tour, where we actually go to a different country every week and talk about the legacy of colonization. And it is constantly fascinating to us of like, oh, hey, so we were never taught this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fascinating. It's this whole process of unlearning everything I ever thought I knew about the world and relearning it week by week. So yes, we would love to talk about that. And I should say for your listeners, like when I keep saying we, Aaron and I are both giant nerds as well. And so we just, every time we have a question, we're like, how can we answer it? Like, how do we go? And so that's what we do within our brand. As empathy educators, we feel that empathy is a lot about curiosity, and that's the backbone of empathy. And so we try to cultivate our curiosity as much as possible and help people cultivate curiosity within themselves.
Yeah, this is amazing. So question for you, as far as if people want to get access to like your YouTube, I heard you say earlier you all have a podcast. Can they get to this via going by way of your website, or should they go to these things individually? What's the best way?
Oh God, it's up to you. We are at Abbey Research, if you spell it with an E, so it's ABBEY Research everywhere on the internet, because we're too millennial to do different names. All of these like Gen Z folks that have different names on every social media platform, that's like gives me hives. So our YouTube is at Abbey Research. The podcast is called The Culture Cast, but if you search for Abbey Research, our website is Abbey Research. You just put a hyphen in the middle of it because somebody else took the name without the hyphen. We're kind of easy to find. My name will also bring up quite a lot of things. So if you search Dr. Kristen Donnelly, it brings up quite a lot of the stuff. We're pretty easy to find. We try to be as easy as possible.
Excellent. I know that our listenership is going to get a good bit of information from this conversation. I cannot wait till 2022 to have you back on the show. I'm certain that there's a lot that we can talk about, even with those topics of what you said about on your YouTube channel. I can't wait to dive in myself.
And you gained a new listener.
For sure.
I'm pretty sure that our listenership is going to go out as well, but definitely right here between me and Oscar, you gained two followers right here.
Oh gosh, thank you so much. That's so exciting. We love starting conversations with people.
That's it. Well, Kristen, thank you so much again for jumping on here with us. Cannot wait to have you back on the show in early 2022.
Oh, always looking forward to it.
All right, cheers. Thank you so much.
You've been listening to the Couple-preneurs Show. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.kothoughtleaders.com.